welcome to the Zooming Hoosk Podcast, and I'm your host, Dustin DaHusky.
Oh. And I'm Kurdan Sourpuss.
And he is being distracted by a can of whipped cream that he is
I'm armed and dangerous.
He has put whipped cream down the straw of his bubble tea. And now he's sucking up the bubbles. The big suck.
Good tapioca.
Good tapioca. So, we've discovered a new local boba tea location called Bamboo.
They put boba in everything.
You can, and it's free of charge.
Free of charge.
They don't even charge for boba in anything that you...
Sorry.
Oh my goodness, cat.
How beautiful does that look?
I could see it. Well, you gotta mix it around to get the foam around.
I want it to be slightly...
So, I figured this is a new location because in this strip mall area, which strip malls are becoming a dying breed anyway, and the few locations, businesses that can survive the hardest of times, they're going to make use of that store and they're not going to tear it down, which is kind of nice. But this Bamboo location, which the store is called Bamboo.
Yep.
And if you're in the West Dallas area, or in the New Berlin area, or Hales Corners, or wherever you are, in Milwaukee, it is on the corner of Oklahoma and Highway 100. Or if you're not from around here, that's Oklahoma and 108th Street.
108th.
108th. You can tell when someone's not from around here when they call it 108th Street, but it's really Highway 100. Right. We don't call it 108 here. Even if it is officially 108, we don't call it that. And you know what? It's been fantastic. I ordered a hazelnut mocha mixed blended boba tea and
coffee, not tea, but it was
coffee.
Coffee
with boba, and it is the best thing I've ever had. And every single time I go to Madison for tea fusion or fusion tea or whatever it's called,
they're out of coffee.
They're always out of coffee. Even in the middle of the afternoon, they were out. It's almost as if they sell out almost in the morning.
You know, at that point, what I would do if I were stuck in Madison all the time, I would go to a coffee place and then I would go to the boba tea place and add boba to my coffee. Literally,
if they allow it,
I'd pay for it.
You are very
literally. Can you just sell me the boba? I will pay whatever it costs.
Then you're desperate.
Well, down there you'd have to be. We never have it. So you did stuff today.
I thought you would say whoever owns the store would have bought more stuff for coffee.
You would think, you would hope, but whatever. You got stuff done today, didn't you?
Yep.
It was your day off. You Zoomed.
I did a lot of Zooming.
You did.
I activated my health insurance card and my dental card. Poos helped me with scheduling an appointment for my COVID vaccines.
Yes.
Which actually, apparently you have to have a account with Walmart, which one thing that pisses me off. Yeah, whatever. One thing that pisses me the hell off is that you have to have an account for everything these fucking days.
Usernames and passwords all over the place.
And you know what? You're going to forget about them anyway.
Yeah.
I wrote them down, and you know what's going to happen? I'm going to forget. Yeah. And then it won't happen until,
the next time you need, and then that's why every one of those places has a password reset function.
Yeah.
Because they expect people to forget it.
Yeah. And I'm pretty good at saving passwords, but if I don't ever have a need for it for more than like once a year, I could care less.
My list of usernames and passwords is like 18 pages long.
Shit. Mine's actually 4 pages long, and I'm actually looking forward to just reducing it, because a lot of that stuff I don't use anymore.
Yeah.
But you helped me with that. I actually sorted away more paperwork, cleaned up my room just a bit more, which... that's all that's left, and This is work stuff, credit card. I could still do my IPE or the the EIP card, which is stupid, but they send me another card for my stimulus, which I could care less about, but I guess I'm forced to use it anyway.
Well, I mean, that's what, $1,400.
Oh, I mean, I'll still use it. It's just I would have saved it for a bit until something, but...
What are you going to spend it on?
Probably 2 functional cameras.
And Bad Dragon?
Well, actually, you can't even buy bad... they sell very, very few, and you know what? I'm pretty good with stuff right now.
Oh.
I might maybe buy more film so that I have a well enough stock that I never have to worry about buying film.
You should buy a decade's worth of lube with it.
I could, but
that may expire.
Yeah, I would rather not. I would rather buy film, have it expire, and get wacky pictures than buy so much lube that I don't know what would happen. Yeah, to me, I'd rather keep buying fresh lube. Film, I would like to keep buying film because eventually that stuff gets expensive, meaning it goes up in price each year by a little bit.
Yeah. And
I would rather be the smart one to just have an entire tub, not a huge ass tub, but I'm talking about a good, like maybe 10 by 12 by 8-inch deep tub of just film formats that I can buy, dump in there. When I want to do something, I just pick what I want, grab a camera that I want. Yeah, and those stupid bugs are still around.
Oh my god. Back.
Nice. Nah. So, as I continue, what I'd spend my $1,400 on, buying a medium format twin lens reflex, twin TLR. Yeah, that's twin lens reflex camera. Buy an okay one now that I have money that's not really mine. I may as well get one that's not just $150, but may as well spend the $300 on a really nice one. Then spend the $160 for a 110mm SLR format camera. That would be the pinnacle of 110 film photography, and then leave it at that. And at that point, I should have no reason to buy another film camera ever again. I'm actually kind of excited that my collection of cameras, which we'll talk about collections at another point in the episode.
Success. The Hunter Goose is on the case.
So, yeah, I would just spend it on film. Frankly, I would spend it on the 2 cameras and as much 35mm and 110mm film brand new as I can. Spend a little bit more on 120mm. I don't use 120 that much, but yeah. So yeah, that's a crock of shit, but you know what? May as well use it while I can. So a lot of it's going to go towards my addiction of film photography and never have to worry about buying film for eons. Also go to antique shops and buy whatever expired film for the wacky effects that it'll produce, but beyond that, I want to buy enough new film to sit on it for a while that I never have to buy new film again, have it expire naturally just a bit, and then take some good pictures with it. But before we go into collections, let's talk about payday loans.
Ugh.
So, we all know that people live paycheck to paycheck in this society.
Yes, they do.
But can you believe that people people live from paycheck to fake paycheck because you're really getting your money faster.
I call it
You're getting
virtual paycheck.
A virtual
I
paycheck.
would call it.
Which, and that means I don't know. So the reason why these places exist is because people overspend and don't know how to control their money. And I'm not just complaining about these people, but there's a huge reason why payday loans are evil, because they take about 10-15% of your paycheck as part of payment, because they will contact your company in some shape form to bypass it
and garnish your wage.
And garnish your wage. You get your money in cash, which means, let's be honest, people who are involved with gangs, people who owe money on a shark loan, these are the people that will use payday loans. Or people that don't know how to manage.
Not just, too. I mean, I'm sure there's others, but
I was about to say,
ideally, I would say that that's probably their biggest clientele.
Is people who don't know how to manage their money.
Yeah.
If there was no such thing as payday loans, which in itself is evil, and you don't get all your money out either, so you're wasting your money doing it each time, and people do this weekly. So much so that...
Like if you have a $700 check, you probably get 630 of it.
Yeah. And you may complain about losing that money, but you're also... You have to wonder why you have to go through such lengths to get your money right away. When you go wait like everyone else does, not only are you saving the money from each week, you're also going to have to use your money wisely in the sense that, well, you don't have to be... Yeah, you'll be living paycheck to paycheck, but at least you're getting your check when you should,
right,
without getting any of it garnished, and you literally balance. Because if you're constantly doing that, you're not really living.
No.
And normally living paycheck to paycheck isn't really living either. But living from paycheck to virtual paycheck is even a worse existence because you're losing more money that way. I think it's an evil type of business strategy and concept that just shouldn't happen. What do you think about payday loans?
I think it's an evil thing that should be eliminated. And I feel bad for anybody that depends on them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because basically, if you have to depend on them to get your money early, I don't know if it's that business or some other business. There's a commercial out there where they say, "It's my money and I want it now."
Oh, that's J.G. Wentworth, but I think that's more. I think that's what?
What is that from? What business is that?
J.G. Wentworth.
What is that though?
I have no idea. I think it's. I really don't know, but it's not payday
Oh,
loans.
he's like a lawyer or something, isn't he?
No, I think it's just 401k.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's your money. Use it when you need it. But then you also get taxed and you get fined for using that money too. So, use your 401k improperly and you're going to lose not only the money you save, but you're losing more money through fees and taxes because that's not taxed. So, there we go. And you know what's another waste of money? So what happened to Mom Loaf? Yes.
She had some assistance with, basic needs, changing bedding, shopping, socializing, for God's sakes. Someone to help with coping.
Mostly cleaning.
Mostly cleaning. Yes.
I would say 60% to 70% to maybe
Cleaning.
even 80% is
like
just tidying things up.
Cleaning restroom, cleaning the kitchen, cleaning the floors.
Right.
Stuff that's harder for older people that don't have flexibility. $1,000 for 1 week. $1,060, wasn't it?
Actually, not even a full week.
Not even a full week. It was almost
32 hours, you say.
32 hours worth of labor.
Was $1,000.
$1,000.
Which means they're getting paid $35 an hour, and still they're not getting that much paid. I think a lot of these workers get paid between $10 and $15 an hour.
Right. So they're getting raped too.
So not only is it a ripoff of a service, but also the people doing the ripping off are also getting ripped off in their own wages.
Yeah.
Because this country devalues work, even though we say, well, we value hard work. But when it comes to actual hard work, we tend to pay those people incredibly low, which is the opposite effect. Yeah, it's...
Yeah. So update on that for anybody that's kind of kept up with me and moving, and my mom moving into her own apartment. She canceled the service, which I'm completely okay with. She's doing really good. I do shopping for her and have it basically like what's the service that delivers food? There's tons of different food.
Yeah, there's so many different services. It's hard enough to pick them all.
The one I use is Instacart, which seems to be really good. But
And do they actually deliver?
They do.
That's fantastic.
I'll give them instructions. I have them call 15 to 20 minutes ahead of time so Mom knows to meet them down there.
So what else was on that bill?
A box of rubber gloves for cleaning.
And this is a cleaning business.
Well, partially cleaning.
You would think that's part of their services is that through the money that they literally ransack from people, that's $1,000 for not even a full week of work.
Yeah.
Yet they charge the people that they're serving money for products and materials that they use.
Yep. And she got charged 20?
No, she got charged $15 for a box of latex gloves.
I hope she got to keep that box.
I don't even know. I think I frankly think if you're providing a business, that's like someone doing plumbing.
Yeah.
It is part of their job to do the work that they're doing. You would think parts and labor would be included with the cost that you're paying.
Right.
No, it's more like someone like doing your plumbing and then say, oh, hey, we're going to charge you extra for piping. But wait a minute. Why is that singled out? Why is that a separate bill? Shouldn't that be part of your services?
Yeah.
Or it's like saying garage door. If you need a brand new garage door or even the garage door opener, you should be expecting that you should have that stuff in stock. And you're paying for the services that, oh yeah, I'm installing it, I have the unit, that's all part of the cost. But that's like saying, hey, not only did we include the cost of the garage opener, but we're also going to include the cost of the garage opener. So what does that mean? The $1,000 you paid for services doesn't count any of the supplies that you used, but somehow you have to charge them extra for the supplies you used. Yep. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
That's like saying going to a gas station. No, going to get your car's oil changed, $29. You know it's going to include oil. You know it's going to include filter.
Better.
That's like also saying, oh, hey,
we don't have oil. You're going to have to pay extra for this.
You're going to have to pay for the 10mm socket we use to crack open the drain plug on your oil pan. Mm-hmm. Because I think you should pay for that. Even if they lose it or not. You would think that's part of the services.
Yep.
I don't know. To me, it's like you're getting charged.
Sounds like they're unprepared.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or it just sounds unprofessional.
Oh, it's very unprofessional.
At that point, I want to like have a list of all the things, which for some car repair facilities, they will literally say parts and labor. And parts should be included on the invoice. Yeah. But it's like saying you're buying for parts, labor, and more parts. It's like, well, no. In that sense, you're paying for parts, labor, and then after that, there's some other random shit that goes on that invoice to say, oh, you're going to pay for also these parts for some reason. Like on a separate part of the invoice, that's like, wait a minute, shouldn't that be part of the other parts?
Right.
Why is this singled out?
Right.
Why is this box of latex gloves singled out from the rest of the cost? Why is that? I don't know. To me, I'm kind of pissed off about that.
I am too.
And it's not even my loaf, Mom, and I'm pissed off that they are charging that much out the nose for their services. And some of them weren't even that friendly, apparently. And yet they say, hey, you have to pay for the rubber gloves, whatever hand sanitizer, whatever cleaning supplies. At that point, what is your sales model?
Right, what do you actually do?
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, to me, their invoice is wacky.
It is.
You would think the gloves would be included in the cost anyway, but they single that out.
It's super questionable.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say about it, really. Moving on, because I don't want to dwell too much on it. that I still care deeply for my mother.
So a lot of things that I've done today.
What did you do?
So as far as the stuff that I've mentioned so far, you've had a run-in with a few traffic cones and knocked off your front plate. Wisconsin is a state that needs a front plate to your car, which a lot of people have an issue with, which, to be honest, front plates help eliminate crime as far as hit and runs. If you have a backup camera, you could record the front plate on the car that hits you, and if they ran off...
If they have plates.
Well, that too, but also it's illegal in the state of Wisconsin to not have front plates on your car.
That doesn't stop criminals, though.
No, but it just means not only they hit and run, but they didn't have a front plate. The thing is, you're a law-abiding citizen, but you want to make sure you're not out of the way of the law.
Yeah.
And frankly, a lot of people that say, well, front plates are stupid, they cost more than one plate. No. Back in the 1980s, Michigan said, hey, if we get rid of the front plate, your registration costs are cut in half. Nope. No. They kept the same cost for one plate. It's pretty stupid.
That's bogus right there. Then I want both my plates.
Oh, yeah. Ohio recently said that they will only issue out one plate. Guess what? Same cost. People are getting screwed for getting only one thing now instead of two. Yeah, because it makes
the state is that cheap.
Well, not just that, but people think front plates are ugly. It's like, my car looks so ugly. When in Europe, a front plate is mandatory, and that's what all cars look. You have a Lamborghini, you have a Ferrari, you all have a front plate, because you know why?
Yeah.
It costs more in a ticket to not have a front plate than it is for registration. And in Europe, registration's $2,500.
Illinois has got front plate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I can't imagine what the citation is for not having a front plate in Illinois, and it's probably more than getting plates. I don't know. But so we decided to put your front plates back on so that you don't get a ticket for.
Yep.
Which someone was nice enough to call the police, hand them over your plate found on the side of the road, which they could have kept it.
The police found it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah.
And they called you and say, hey, we have your front plate.
They came here.
Oh, yeah?
Your mom was awake.
Oh. Well, you got your front plate, but all the mounting holes are gone.
Yep.
So we just drilled new mounting points in your bumper. We literally just drilled right into it, because you know why? May as well go back on. And you know what? It's on there more firmly than it is before. That was kind of nice.
Almost as firm as my loaf.
Aww. And that went in less than 10 minutes.
Yep.
It's nice to fix things almost immediately.
Is after we priced a new plate holder.
Front plate bracket, which cost about $25 or so, brand new from Honda, which is an old stock new part. But we just kind of looked at it and thought, we could just get away with just putting it back on, just drill it in.
Yeah, it's a little bit smooshed.
Well, I mean, it's a 20-year-old car. Actually, it'll be 20 years old next year. So, to be honest, if it were a newer car, I would have gotten a new part. But a car your age, you know what? It's probably not worth the non-consequential parts. If it needs actual legitimate parts, that's one thing. But something as small as a license plate holder, if you got it, you're just better off drilling it back in, screwing it in, done. So it's a bit of repair, reduce, and recycle. You're not needing a new part. You're not throwing the old part away. You're technically reusing it.
Definitely.
If you can get away with reusing the same part, fixing up a bit, making it functional, and putting it back on, you're reducing the number of crap that's in our disposal anyway. You're saving yourself money, especially for something as free as 3 random screws and 10 minutes of your time.
Yep.
I think that is a done deal.
Yep. What else do we get done? I mounted a Zelda Twilight Princess poster that I've been holding on to for like 10 years.
Aww.
No, longer. I don't know. What Twilight Princess came out in like the early 2000s. No, mid to late 2000s. We'll say 2007, 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Well over a decade old.
So you were able to get a poster for that. I found some K-cup filters for my Easy Cup, which I like Keurigs, but eventually gets annoying to tear apart those K-cups properly.
Yeah.
I would rather just deal with the one filter I can replace and throw out, which they're biodegradable.
Yeah.
We have a compost.
Yep.
You know what? Good. It's going back into the earth. Coffee grounds, that can go back in the earth anyway, too.
My dad loaf did the same thing.
Uh-huh. And you know what? Not the worst thing to put in the ground.
No.
Because eventually that stuff will biodegrade in a few years to a point where it's just not there anymore.
Sorry. My boba.
So let's talk about collections, because I mentioned something about cameras and whatnot.
God, I am making so much noise.
You make a lot of noise, Cat.
There. One, just like a Band-Aid, right
Yeah,
off.
you just gotta rip it off. So I made a mention about cameras, because I like film photography, always have and always will be.
Mm-hmm.
Never really stopped, so it's not like a new thing for me. It's been something I've just kept doing since the 90s. And this summer I'm going to reduce a bit of my collection to only functioning cameras. The few cameras that mean sentimental value to me since the 90s that are my dad's or my aunt's or whatever. And only functional formats that I can still buy film for. So all of the other formats that I can't really get film for, whether functioning or not functioning, I plan to either give them away to furs that want something cool to display or something. Don't think I could get much money for them. Or what I'll end up doing is just give them back to antique stores. At least that way someone will have a chance to enjoy them in some way, shape, or form. I like books, I like license plates, and old analog music formats like tape cassettes and vinyls, because you know what? That's kind of fun.
It's very fun.
And the fun bit about some of my collections is that you can still use them. Well, books are collectible if they're old and rare enough, but for the most part, books are still functional and useful. Tape cassettes and records. Yeah, they're collectible, but you can listen to them too, so they're functional in the same right. Downsizing my film photography collection to cameras that I want to keep, but also want to use, because I still want to use all these cameras to a good degree. So not only will there be a collection of that, but also all these cameras will not only be functional, but I can use them from time to time. Then switching out from one camera to another. So, and license plates just because I like collecting license plates, but I've got so many of them. But they make good wall background, or wallpaper without being actually wallpaper, so. What kind of collections do you like, Kat?
I just finished a Sourpuss.
Aw.
1/2 of one anyway.
Aw.
Actually, that's a Sourpuss with a fuzzy ball sack.
Very interesting.
So before I moved, I had a video game collection that was probably worth about $7,000 or $8,000. The old Nintendo, the old Super Nintendo, GameCube, which was Nintendo's first disc-based system. It came on mini discs, which mini compact discs, man, they failed so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody used them.
Oh, wait, compact discs?
Mini compact discs.
Oh, those stupid
Like if
things.
you pop out your tray, there's a little indentation for a mini in there.
Oh, really?
Literally, pop your tray out right now.
It's going to make so much noise.
I don't care. That's all right. Actually, if it's a lock, it's not going to show it.
Yeah, it's a lock.
Okay, so it'll take either. Any of the self-feeding, like my disc changer, would eat them up and you would not get them back.
Oh, in your car?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the size differences.
You
Yeah.
would just lose the disc. It would just.
It would
crunch
actually jam it.
It would,
It would jam it because it's not the same width, so it's not going to be balanced. So
it would just be. Sitting
it's going
in
to
there.
dislodge.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good idea. It has to be a control feed system, meaning something that you can physically pop it in and out.
What else? Oh, N64, the Nintendo 64-bit system, which was a cartridge-based system again. Wait, N64 came out before GameCube. There's been so many Nintendo systems. Because then they made the Wii, and they made the Wii U, and then the Switch. And I haven't gotten anything past the GameCube.
Yeah, there's so many different formats.
And that's just the Nintendo consoles. Then then I had the old Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, Sega CD attachment to the Sega Genesis, the Sega 32X attachment to the Sega Genesis, the Master System converter, which was the downgrade, so you could play older games on the Sega Genesis. Then the Sega Saturn, I believe.
Which was the last system they
No.
made.
There was one after that. They made the Dreamcast. That was their last, which failed so hard. I remember I was working the day that it was announced that Sega was going to be folding as a company. And literally people went to every store to buy up the games for the system.
Knowing that they'll never get them again.
Yeah. Except nobody really knew or could predict that, rental shops like Blockbuster Video and Family Video and all those other places were just still sitting on stock. We're still sitting on inventory and would be selling them as previewed or used games here and there. So I somehow ended up with a collection of Dreamcast games, like 96 or 98 games for it. I pretty much had every game ever made for him. Then the Sony PlayStation came out, somewhere in there. That's when Sony decided to join the console race.
Or console wars, or actually it was console wars and
console
format wars too.
Yep. And then, of course, Microsoft chimed in with the Xbox. So I had one of those. Actually, I had a couple of those because they died.
I take it they just weren't built very well.
Not really. And it would read. It had two lasers, one for reading compact discs, and one for reading DVDs, I think. Or maybe it was just the way it was configured. I don't know. I never cracked it open, so I didn't really see. I'm missing consoles in there. What else was there? Oh, God. The old Intellivision, the old Atari 2600.
So you had all these games.
Yeah.
You had many, many totes.
Many, many totes. A wall full. I did keep my handheld consoles, but I got rid of all the main ones because I have them on emulation. And this is an argument that can go on forever, but a lot of people say that emulation is not the same, which I agree, but it beats having to lug around, I don't know, like 600 or 700 pounds worth of totes.
Yeah.
Because that's how much I had. I had a lot of games.
I think it's more for the nostalgia purposes, but there's
sure.
more practical purposes.
For sure.
It's like, yeah, you could get CDs of tape cassettes or records, but then again, there's also people who would go for the MP3 files
Right.
of the same song, not take up the same space physically.
And then your shelf system over here that you have for your books, combine that into one big, huge shelf. Those were all my CDs, my compact discs, my music collection, which I sold that off for $80, the whole thing.
Wow.
Including the shelf unit. I literally
Sold everything.
saran wrapped and helped them carry it down the stairs and put it into their car for $80. They got the whole unit,
Oh, cool.
shelf and all. It's a nice unit. It was a bit nice and big. Looked nice, but I couldn't keep all that music. I didn't listen to most of it anyway. And honestly, I have most of it backed up on my computer anyway. So, resourceful Poos.
I mean, with like vinyls and tapes and whatnot, I'm a very niche collector. If some of you know me well enough, I like collections, but I'm very niche with what I'm collecting as well. Yeah, I like records, although I would rather collect original stuff, but that's out of my price range.
Yeah.
But I'd probably collect a few bands worth of records and tapes, and then anything random in between that I end up finding for a good price. But beyond that, yeah.
A lot of key stuff, a lot of really
Just
must-have in your collection type stuff.
Right, which is, in that case, by definition, niche
Yeah.
in terms of interest. Whereas if you grew up with it, you paid brand new for it, you've had it growing up, that's one thing. But at my age, I didn't really grow up in the time of records when they were brand new. Because by the 90s, tapes and CDs were the thing, but records were kind of dead by 1990. There were a few bands that were still releasing stuff on vinyl by 91, but by 92, it was technically a dead format as far as new production is concerned. They were still making re-releases of older stuff, but as far as new content, as far as music, by 91, the record was pretty much dead as far as a new means to...
Sure.
And I think by 95, 96, I think records in general just stopped production.
Do you know we still have records for sale at Walmart?
Which, not just still, it's brand new production.
Right, brand new production.
Right, which I find incredible.
Almost, I'd say reproduced even
Right.
at this point.
Whereas I can get every single Rush record for $20 each.
Which is pretty expensive.
Actually, it's pretty cheap if you think about it. For brand new stuff.
Vinyl's
The original stuff, you're looking at maybe $30 to $50 a piece. Like a original 2112 record, you might be looking at maybe $60, maybe $80. And the earlier you go with Rush stuff, the more expensive it gets because...
Well, sure. By today's standards. If you had bought them when they were originally released in vinyl...
Then it's about the same cost.
No, $10 to $12, $13.
Right. Or finding a original Rush self-titled record, you're looking at several grand for one of the original, I think 35 or 5,000 copies made that was from the band members' own money.
That's insane.
Those original records are worth several $1,000s, and the ones that were never opened out of the vinyl pouch, totally sealed in time, tens of thousands of dollars. Just literally, just gold mines. And I don't feel like collecting... Oh my god, that scared the shit out of me.
Your mom will.
Well,
I'm going to have to let her leave a message.
there we go. So,
Sorry about that.
So pretty much, my collection's going to be niche. For tapes, it's going to be old stock that's still existing. For whatever records that I don't have that I want, I'd rather buy brand new, because that way I know I can get quality sound without having the fear of having a record skip too much. So, at least with my collections, they don't take that much space the more I think about it. Whereas I know a lot of people that go deep in their collections that in a sense that I can get pretty OCD or niche and insane. There are others out there that are absolutely nuts for a collection.
Yeah.
And also, recently, doing something a bit creative, well, not really creative, but something I've never done before, never had attempted before, with one aspect of my collection is old cameras. And some of these cameras have battery compartments. Some of these battery compartments haven't seen a new battery in 10, 20, 30 years. You know what happens to old batteries? They get old, they decay, and they expand. Thus, they leak out battery acid in the form of powder, which then corrodes terminals, and then you get a dead camera, which sucks. It's great because you buy these cameras cheap because they know that no one wants to buy a camera that may or may not work. And you know what? Recently, I brought to life a Minolta Model 470 110 millimeter camera. Not only did I get the camera body itself working again, I also got the flash unit that was also installed on it.
Oh, the one that the capacitor we heard.
Yes, which is insane how loud that thing is. I've heard many flash capacitors spool up to gain charge. That is the loudest flash capacitor I have ever heard.
So for me, thinking back to my youth,
Yeah.
they all sounded like that.
Oh yeah.
It was very common. It was nothing
New is just. It's just that's how they sounded.
You were used to hearing that sound.
But this is the loudest I've ever heard a flash capacitor go. And you know what? I've discovered that the best way to clean up battery acid is using Q-tips or cotton swabs and white vinegar to clean up the battery acid spill. And then, if nothing else works beyond that, take a bit of fine steel wool and rub gently on the contacts until gray or shiny. Then it will create a perfect enough contact with a new battery that it should there shouldn't be no impedance to the current to work in that sense. And you know what? I brought back a flash unit, a camera body, and a disc camera back to life. In most cases, I have a bad track record with electronics. As far as getting them back to working shape, most cases they're still dead. So for once, it's nice to actually have some working cameras that do take a battery. It is nice for once to get something to work again as it should. So for those who find like AAA, AA, or any type of battery cell, a small handheld battery cell, and if you see electronics with batteries that have exploded in place, fear not, you may have a chance to actually not only save whatever electronic you're trying to bring back to life, but you have a good chance, like maybe 9 out of 10 chance, if you use a bit of white vinegar, you clean it gently to where that the surface is totally devoid of any acid. And if that don't work on its own, then you can smoothen up the surface to shininess with some steel wool. And you can definitely get your camera or whatever, radio, whatnot, back to working order, which is kind of nice. Goes back to reduce, reuse, recycle type of deal.
Definitely. What else do we have? Anything?
I've noticed that with business locations for sale or rent, but new buildings are still being built up to order.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like driving around in West Dallas, we see so many business fronts on major streets that are for sale or for rent.
Oh yeah.
Totally devoid of any business. But yet, in West Dallas recently, there are more buildings, apartments, businesses being built up brand new. Which there are so many other businesses that are being made to order, while there's so many other pre-existing businesses that would cost a quarter of what they're being built.
Yeah.
It's like in West Dallas, along National Avenue, just past the railroad tracks, past 80th Street. No. I'm trying to figure out. No, I think it's past 70th Street going east on National. There are a new set of apartments that look like $2,000 a month apartments.
Oh, yeah.
They're 3 stories high. They have a clubhouse on each individual building. They have what looks like a really deep pool.
Is that the one that I said where the pool was on the top floor?
Yeah.
So ridiculous.
And they have underground parking, which may be the only thing worthwhile about them. Because you know what? In Sleepy Westalis, there's not enough street parking for everyone's damn car. When I grew up in the 90s, there were only 3 people on my block that actually had a car. Period.
Yeah.
People had garages. They didn't have a car because they took the bus. And we were so proud of our car, we didn't even park it in the garage. We parked it up front because we wanted to show the neighborhood we had a car. And we were working blue-collar family. We were definitely working class. We weren't so much middle class, but we were definitely working class. And now I go in my old neighborhood. You can't park anywhere. There's so many cars clogging up the streets that it's almost effectively a one-aisle street on both sides. But with these apartment complexes, they've solved the issue, which is one thing. At least road congestion's not so bad parked with cars on each side. So at least these new apartment complexes are doing one thing good. They have self-contained parking structures beneath their apartments. Beyond that, all of these new places which look modern and whatnot, I can't imagine these places costing any less than even $1,600, which not many people make that much money in a month anyway. Or if anything, they're making $2,000 a month, not including phone bill, car payment, what their phone payment. People take out a loan for a phone and pay some odd number a month for 2 years. It's it's just incredible. But they're building so many new buildings that it's almost becoming a waste of what's already out there. I don't know. It's just, to me, I'm kind of shocked that the cat is emitting a lot of sounds.
Gaseous sounds.
It's coming out on both ends. So, I don't know. Business locations, because of the pandemic, are all over the place. But that would mean any new business that is willing to actually start out during this time have abundant locations for them to start out, either buy outright or rent. But these locations are going to be available for years, though, and eventually they're going to say it's probably easier. And you know what? You made a mention.
Yeah.
It's more expensive to tear down a place.
Oh yeah, rebuild.
And to rebuild.
You have to level. You have to
You pretty much have to reestablish the ground beneath it so it doesn't sink in.
Yeah.
And then you got to build. Whereas if you build incredibly from scratch on virgin land, it's literally cheaper to build from scratch on land that's never been built on before than it is to reestablish on land already used by another building, which in the future we're going to see cemeteries being dug up eventually. You have to wonder, in about 100 years' time, so much of the land is being used for commercial and residential that eventually cemeteries are going to be picked up and say, hey, look, we can't afford to have this cemetery here. Not that the cemetery business has anything to say about it. The city will say, hey, look, which I'm going to think that in 100 years' time, cremations are going to be the only way to go.
I'm sure.
Because cemeteries are going to be such high real estate, because people are going to say that.
Yeah.
Even though you should respect and give dignity to the dead.
Yeah.
You know that businesses and corporations don't care.
No.
If they're going to see an entire park say, hey, we can make this really prime factory real estate, but it's a cemetery, we'll convince the people, the city, and the cemetery manager to literally pay for the land. I mean, Paris did this before.
Did they?
Yeah. Paris back in the turn of the century relocated so many cemeteries and whatnot that
Where did they get relocated to, though?
just different parts of the city. They transferred the tombs, but not the bodies. They collected them in one pit, and that was it. So often enough, the bones aren't where you think they are. But the cemetery tombstones are just really, yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah. But then again, Paris is a perfect example of a city outgrowing the space it's got. And sometimes a cemetery makes a good spot for a building or two. So much so that the people say, hey, we're going to give you money. Sometimes that money is too good to pass up.
Wouldn't you have to, like, literally contact every single person that has a
they don't care.
lost family member there?
So as long as they still have the tombstone, as long as they relocate it, that's one thing. But do they know that their relatives are still buried underneath that tombstone? No. Do they know? Maybe.
That's awful.
In the United States, I can see that happening.
Yeah, I can too.
Because one, businesses don't care
Nope.
about human life when we're alive. They certainly won't care if we're dead.
No, definitely not.
And they're going to pay. If Apple wants to produce a plant in Milwaukee, they say, hey, but we want the cemetery because this would make good real estate. You know what? With enough money, anything is possible.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, just it's sad to see things are being built up. And eventually, there's going to be not enough space to build until you look at these. And I made a mention, too. All of these single-family homes in the nearby neighborhood, one day, are going to get torn down. People talk about, oh yeah, the farms and whatnot. All this is going to be real estate one day, and you know what?
Well,
Yeah,
it's all real estate now.
it's going to be built up,
Yeah.
but it's only a matter of time before all of these single and duplex homes on blocks are going to be reduced to apartment complexes in 50 years. Because you know why? It's because actually, it either will happen or it won't. But that was only because of baby boomers is why we built up. The birth rate is going down. We may be able to actually see that we may not need every single living square inch to be destroyed, raised, and then built up again with apartment complexes. Except for those who are duped thinking that apartment complexes are the way to go, which recently I see more and more furries buying houses. And a lot of them have been living in apartments for so long that they're getting kind of fed up with living in apartments anyway. They're starting to realize buying a house is maybe the only way to go. Some of them are even my age, but
just to change the subject, at some point I'm going to be doing my own content on my YouTube channel again. It's been pretty barren for God knows how long.
I was about to actually make a mention that you were thinking about branching out.
I am. I'm thinking about doing some singing, doing some podcasting of my own. And with that, I would like very much to collaborate with some of my favorite YouTubers. Specifically,
You want to do something with Houston Jones.
Houston Jones, for sure. And I may be, setting my sights too high at this point because I'm not established at all as a YouTuber. I might set my sights lower, or let's not say lower, because that's saying something about someone else. More realistically, because I would like to. I don't know how familiar anybody is with Houston Jones' content, but he does a lot of pretty wild and crazy, wacky, almost stunts.
It's really all stunts.
Like almost Jackass type, if you're familiar with Johnny Knoxville and all his content that they did back in the early 2000s. It's very much in the vein of Jackass, but I think that Houston Jones actually takes it to a new level. He understands his audience and connects with them on a very humorous and suggestive level, which I appreciate, and I think you do as well.
Oh, I love this content because it's something different.
Yeah.
It's incredibly unique because not many people would go to the lengths he does to torture himself for your entertainment.
Wearing a diaper and running in it.
And then taking shits by squatting and running over bonfire pits and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean...
And then saying the words, he has a log in his diaper, and his camera crew is like, holy cow, that smells. There's very, very few people who are going the lengths of him to not only do stuff for science in quotation marks, but to embarrass the living shit out of himself.
Sure.
But he's becoming a force to reckon with on YouTube for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's mentioned even that dozens of his videos have been flagged for like
age restriction
videos because of the content.
Which I think is kind of sad and kind of dumb at the same time. Because this world is becoming very bubble wrap type
we're so
mentality.
up our own ass about it.
And eventually, I like to think this is more the prude era in terms of... Because you know what a prude is. It's literally people who say, oh, well, we can't see a naked body. Well, you see yourself naked in the mirror, but you say that, you know, naked bodies in general are not allowed.
Yeah.
Or the idea of someone having sex is not allowed, even though that you shouldn't have to care about it, but you still do. I think after this time period that we're living in right now, there's going to be a renaissance of kind of like the sexual revolution of the 1950s and 60s.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have another one of those again just because people...
We're going to have to because we're so censored right now.
We're so deprived of what is technically natural human things.
They have the powers that be have attached such a huge amount of shame to sex in general.
Yeah.
It's like, how do they expect us to procreate? Not that I procreate, but other people do that are able to. How do they expect people to procreate if they don't understand how sex works, for God's sakes? And everyone has their own thing that they're into. You know, not everybody has sex through a tiny hole in a sheet, separating the two naked bodies from each other.
Well, also in sleeping bags.
Yeah.
So that you can't see the naked person that you're banging. So, and you know what? It's gone full Amish, and that's actually an insult to Amish people.
It is.
And actually, I think Amish people have more passionate sex doing exactly that than some of the normal people in this country.
They have some pretty big families.
Yeah. Whereas, I'm not gonna I'm just gonna say it, but the GOP is very much that same group of people that would say, hey, you can only have sex to actually procreate.
Right.
They would make a law say, well, you're not allowed to have consensual sex unless it's meant for making kids, which I'm going to say this. Every man on earth loves to masturbate.
Even if they don't like to admit it, they do it.
Oh, yeah. Your priests are masturbating.
Sure.
There we go. They think about Jesus and penis in hand.
There's a small percentage of people that don't. I'm not going to name any names, but I know people. So there's a smaller percentage of people that do not get off. But a very large percentage of us do.
To say that you don't masturbate is also like saying you don't poop, like Kim Jong-un. And everybody know he poops.
Yeah.
But getting back to your original subject, content creating on YouTube is kind of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Whether if you're going to do it for educational, like I'm more like an educational Hoosk more than anything else. And maybe I might get into some entertainment stuff here and there. You would like to get more into entertainment parts.
Sure.
Such as singing, doing fursuit videos that are kind of creative and fun and whatnot.
Right.
Everyone's going to do their own little thing. And I think that's fun because it shows what you're capable of doing.
Right.
And the world is your audience. And speaking of content creating, this podcast, for example, is another form of content creating. It's entertainment.
Definitely.
And you made a mention the other day, when everything sucked in 2020 for everyone, we fared all right by keeping busy with this podcast. And while other things have sucked in 2020, we made the second half of this year better just by doing a podcast.
I think it helped.
I think it helped us get by without totally like scraping the bucket of ideas and stuff to do and whatnot.
Sure.
The idea of at least doing a podcast once or twice a week, when we're able to, has actually allowed us to just be a bit creative about what we can talk about, being informational about some stuff, but also the idea of having fun doing something as easy as a podcast. I'm going to say this. People think podcasts are a hard thing to do. Nah. It's actually the most fun I've ever done.
Definitely.
And it doesn't not require that much effort to do. If someone says they're having a lot of effort doing a podcast, okay, perhaps. But for someone who's technologically and software challenged as I am, if I'm able to do this, then anyone else can. That's saying something.
I mean, you had the help of a certain Poos.
Yes, which explains why that I had to have help. But
I'm not saying you had to help.
No.
Help.
I'm saying is that while having your help, I can understand how this all works and then realize this isn't so bad.
I'm just glad that you were able to adapt and get accustomed to doing it, and you can just like fly through and set it up and.
And what's fun about doing this podcast is that we both have fun.
And Zoom.
We both have fun. We've had guests on the show.
Yep.
So much so that they have fun coming on the show as well.
And we, of course, enjoy having them.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's nice to talk about something else that we don't have any idea what to talk about. It's just fun to bring up subjects that, from a different perspective, would be fun to talk about. It's like, if there was no pandemic and we still did this podcast, we'd probably have a lot more guests on the show by now, or at least varied guests.
For sure.
It's just with the pandemic, we only trust ourselves with a few in person. I could do something online through the internet, but I figured there's going to be a lag between someone from another part of the country, which may actually annoy me because there may be a 5-second delay at the worst. And while it can work, there's a 5-second delay from our part, or from our perspective to them, and their perspective to us.
Right.
Not to say that it couldn't happen, not to say that it couldn't work.
It could.
But boy, we know that there's some limitations with that.
Mm-hmm. A little bit tipsy.
Oh, a tipsy cat. He is smacking all the things. I have fun. I think this is the best thing we have done, and despite having not so good year from last year, content creating has been fun. I made so many videos. Passed the time, allowed me to conversate with a lot of people online. Sometimes you're just better off discussing things, even if you don't think anyone is listening. Someone is.
Right.
With this podcast in particular, I know so many people who would love to be on the show, or tell us to go to certain conventions to do it in person, which that's not far from the truth. When cons come back, I would not mind bringing the podcast with me to do a podcast at a convention. I think that'd be pretty fun to bring the convention with us to different locations.
Did I wear my flip-flops?
You wore your flip-flops around.
Today?
Yep.
So I have my taped...
toes exposed.
My taped paw pads exposed. I have broken toes because I am very clumsy cat at work. I drop things on my feet all day.
You wear steel toe boots?
Yes. Most of the time. Most of the time. Mostly. The few times that I didn't wear one, a steel-toed boot, is when I drop things. Or,
Normally that shouldn't happen.
Steel toe is not going to protect the back of my poos leg from a steel cart behind me that chops into my leg.
Are they actual steel boots, or are they like tennis shoes with steel toe?
They're boots. You saw me buy them from Fleet Farm or Farm Fleet.
I don't know. Maybe it's just different work.
Fleet Farm.
Yep. So.
Somebody else out there that is still an amazing content creator, Cooper Tom. I know I probably mentioned him way too much, but I idolize the man. He's got a great voice. He puts so much effort into creating these VR worlds that he's making lately. Talk about a fun content creator. And I know he's doing a lot of percentage of it for himself. But the fact that other people enjoy, I saw that come out. A lot of people also enjoy what he does. So, kudos to him for continuing to do content.
It's also unfortunate that he's not actually currently working.
Yeah,
because in his field, I don't know what he did, if it was software developing.
IT. I know his IT was one of his main things.
Which, IT is supposed to be a huge thing right now.
It is.
And if people are being let go...
You know what's the problem is?
There's too many.
Not just that. The largest corporations are outsourcing their IT.
Yep.
When they need them, so they don't have to keep them on all the time.
Yep.
Oh, our system went down. We need to call someone.
Yep.
It's cheaper for a company like in the IT crowd to just outsource and call those people in when they need them, rather than keeping them employed, 256 days a year.
I've had some local friends tell me about getting into IT work. It's like, well, one, I don't have enough time right now to go back to school to learn IT, go to school for another 2-3 years, because I already have the basics down. I just have to learn specifically IT, but the thing is, I'm not interested. And the other is, what's the guarantee that your jobs yourselves aren't going to be outsourced like you just mentioned? Or what happens if AI software gets smart enough to where that they could do about 80% of the job as an IT person can, and only keep a small fraction of the IT staff for the other 20% that the AI software can't do?
Yes.
What's going to say that you're going to make your own job obsolete in 10 years? You can work for 10 years, but much like Cooper Tom, who's really good at IT, what's to say that you're going to keep your job?
Yep.
I'm not going to shame any of my friends who are in IT currently, but the fear is eventually there's always going to be something. There's going to be a bigger fish who is going to eat you out.
Ooh.
In this case, for me, I'm a bus driver. However, for my specific line of work, it's still going to be human operated, because I don't think an AI machine will do my job efficiently.
No.
But if you're in IT, if things are repetitive, AI will definitely solve that within an instant. If it's repetitive enough, it'll figure things out.
Yeah.
If things are random enough to where AI cannot compete, then you are in a good position that you'll keep your job for a very long time. I just feel like IT tech or IT support people will, and they say that this job is supposed to last quite a bit, but there's a website that will tell you how long each segment of an industry will last before AI finds a way to take over. And they say IT won't last very long in the next 20 years. In 20 years' time, we'll be looking at IT school courses as we do engineering courses right now.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to seem like I am ranting. This is going to happen across the board unless we put in practices that say we won't let AI take over the job market, which corporations would rather want to do to not pay for people to do their job. But eventually, it's going to happen if nothing gets done to save them. People don't think that, I don't think I could lose my job because they'll need me. That's true right now. What's to say in 10 years that they say, hey, you have 50 people working in an IT firm, or what have you. They're going to reduce the workplace by 80%. Now there's only 10 of you. Because a lot of it's done automatically by AI. You're only going to be working the other 10, 20% that AI cannot function.
Right.
So. And then some jobs, it's going to be very hard for AI to actually do anyway. So, recently we just got Popeyes chicken.
Yes, we did.
So I've only had Popeyes 3 times in my whole life. A lot of it because a lot of the locations aren't in the best parts of town, and they have like 2.5-inch bulletproof glass. That's when you know you're in a rough neighborhood, is when everything is behind bulletproof glass. But I've been going out to Popeyes since Kurdan showed me a Popeyes in his town.
Yep.
And to be honest, better chicken than KFC.
Yep.
Absolutely 100 times better.
Yeah.
They have tasty chicken that is not totally greased.
Yep.
KFC has some good tasting chicken, but holy cow, the amount of grease covering them is just incredibly greasy. So much grease.
It is. They could improve.
Popeyes is less grease. I feel like you can get a little bit more.
They snuck how many extra pieces in our 12-piece?
6 to 7 pieces.
Yeah. 6 big ones and like 3 small.
And we only ordered a 12-piece family. Yeah. I think it's good value.
Yep.
And their sides aren't bad. They're pretty tasty.
Mashed potatoes, red beans and rice, biscuits.
And they were busy. Oh boy, were they busy.
Oh yeah. The drive-thru had like 16, 17 cars in there.
Yeah. And it took us a good 40 minutes before we finally got to orders. Well, I don't know about 40 minutes, but it took us 40 minutes inside the building to finally get our stuff out, which, when you think of fast food, you think you'd get yourself a bit more faster.
But it was fresh. I mean, it was
fresh because they were totally busy that...
We saw them put ours like up directly from the fryer.
They were so busy that none of their food was ever stale, sitting out longer than 10 minutes because they were constantly going through it.
Even the other lady that we were standing there with said, "Can I get that?" And she was like, "Yes, you can." Yeah. Stuff they had just put in there, and they
didn't complain.
Nope. Like,
and in fact, they gave us more food knowing that we've been there for quite a bit of time waiting.
They almost always do that. The only other place that does that, Long John Silver's.
Never been to one.
If we can ever find one that's still in existence.
There might be one or two around here, but I've never paid any attention to them.
It's the only fast food fish fry place.
But and also with my job, I use a GPS unit in my bus because I sometimes have no idea where the hell I'm going at times. And there are some roads that have not existed from 3 years ago, because the last time that I've updated my GPS was 2017.
Yeah.
Tonight I kind of want to update it just so that I'm up to either 2019 or 2020 update, depending on when the last time this model unit had its update, or last time it could be updated.
I would hope it would be within the last year at least.
But I'm also thinking about using my go-to GPS, which I never use my phone because A, I don't have enough data to run it constantly, and B, I have always good results using my GPS unit, my Garmin. I've always used the Garmin unit since 2010, and never been lost except for a few times, which oddly enough happens to be in the middle of nowhere, where the reception is still kind of spotty. I'm looking at getting a new GPS unit because last time I bought one was 2014. While my current one still works, I'd rather keep that one for work because it's a bit grimy, it's a bit used. It still works just perfectly, but I could use something a bit newer, something nicer in my own car so that I can rely on the new one for ordinary driving around town and use the old one but with an updated map update for my job, just so at least that way I'm good to go for the next few years. And GPS units don't cost as much as they did 7 years ago, and before then even less.
Yeah, they've gotten more affordable.
And to be honest, they're pretty nice. They're actually pretty slick, and there are more functions now on them than they were on my current unit, and I thought my current unit spoiled me silly with live traffic updates, which is kind of fantastic. Granted, they're always 10 minutes late, but pretty accurate. If it's a car accident, they're not going to be gone in 10 minutes anyway. So, also, we went to Total Wine, and I'm starting to like the little tiny booze bottle samplers.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic.
They're fantastic for mixing. They're the perfect amount for any glass with any Coke or tonic or whatever. You pour it in, and I feel like it's just perfect size.
What is that one?
That's the apple pie.
What did you mix it with?
The Coca-Cola energy drink.
Oh, how was that?
That was pretty good, actually.
So you had an apple pie Coca-Cola energy.
Yeah. And I thought it was fantastic. And you know what? I'm starting to like this more, that I may end up just buying a bunch of these at a time. And when I want to make a mixed drink, I'd rather just crack one small one up, knowing that the mixture is going to be somewhat consistent between one mixed drink to another. You can still taste the alcohol, you can slightly get a bit of a buzz, but you can still drink the original drink that's mixed in there. And I've discovered I like gin. I like gin and tonic.
Ah.
I kind of like it. And the dry gin, you can certainly taste the dryness, which is unique. I never had that experience before.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But
it's acquired. It's an acquired taste for sure.
But I really like the small booze bottles. I think they're kind of cute. But I think they're really, really functional as far as making a mixed drink.
Yep.
What do you think about the small booze bottle?
They're cute.
Aw, and did you have one?
Did I?
Yeah, you had one yesterday. It was like a whiskey coffee bourbon.
Oh my god, I didn't even finish it.
Oh, really?
It's still sitting out there. I put saran wrap over the top.
Uh-oh.
It's not Jack Daniels. What's the other thing? Jameson.
Jameson.
Ooh. I'm not going to say that I'm not a huge fan. It's just not my go-to.
Right.
I took a pretty giant swig of it, I thought. And I felt, it coated my entire inner...
esophagus.
Esophagus? Yeah, it did. And I felt like I couldn't actually feel things go down my throat for a while.
Really?
I was like, wow, that's enough of that. I was going to finish it off today, but I forgot about it.
Aw.
Thanks for the remind.
So
I'm probably going to loaf here soon because...
Okay. Just one more subject.
Yeah.
Sitting on my bed right now are 2 volumes from my complete volume of the World Book Encyclopedias catalog from my own birth year of 1993.
Yeah, wow.
And you know what? Besides modern technology, you can learn still quite a lot from them. Except for more, obviously more recent stuff. And they don't even make them anymore. I think after 2010 or 2012 or 2011, they stopped publishing them because not many people still bought them. Which is kind of a shame. But growing up, having a home computer was expensive. The internet back in the day wasn't so...
dependable?
Wasn't so dependable. The information may not be accurate. There was almost no direction in the information given. And it may not cover everything what you're learning. Whereas learning from a book in school was maybe your best bet at finishing a research paper. And we as kids fought over volumes to get information, because if you didn't get your particular volume, you're going to be waiting for the next person to use it before they were ready to hand you it.
Yep.
I don't think Zoomers, and I'm not saying that as a condescending way, but I don't think Zoomers have ever felt the pain and the frustration of doing a research paper without the internet, or very little bit of it.
What is Zoomers?
Generation Z.
It's so hot. I'm like burning up.
Aw, and you're sleeping. Aw, sleeping cat.
Zoomers. I got called boomer.
You're no way a boomer.
By somebody. Some kid on Facebook who was interested in me, but got fed up with me because I was not into it. And he was like, okay, boomer.
I mean, yeah, I understood that it was funny, but now it's kind of like, this is kind of getting old to even call people boomers. It's something to describe someone, but to use it in a way to condescend.
Derogatory.
Yeah, at that point it's like, this is so 2018, 2019, or even earlier.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But you're no way a boomer.
No, I'm not.
You're Generation X.
My parents were boomers.
Actually, no. Your parents are not even boomers. They're a silent generation. Boomers were from 46 to 64. Uncle Kage is considered a boomer. He was born in 63.
Uncle Kage is a boomer.
Yeah. Boomer cockroach.
Boomer. I doubt he listens to this.
No. Oh, no. I don't think he knows that we exist.
Ah.
I mean, he knows I exist because I told him I failed chemistry and he looked at me very strangely.
I did too.
Aw. You should tell that to him next time you see him. Oh. I also failed chemistry.
First semester I got Fs.
Aw.
I failed a true-false test.
Really?
I got every answer wrong.
That's funny.
Like, legitimately. Like, I kept getting 50%. Literally every time. And I would go through and I would change a few answers. Still 50%. Finally, I went through and I failed the whole thing. I was the laughing stock of that classroom. The teacher was literally like, if you had switched every answer to the opposite of what you answered it, you would have had 100%.
Wow.
I didn't grasp it at all. The content just went right over my head.
Yeah, chemistry, I understand much of it, but when it comes to memorization and exams, I was bad.
Me too.
On a textbook level, I understood it well enough to where I squeaked by, but not enough to...
I couldn't even comprehend most of it.
Yeah, it's pretty much a different language for me.
Algebra was a struggle.
Aw, algebra poos.
And trigonometry, forget it. There's no way.
Statistics.
Oof.
I'm actually very good with math. I'm actually pretty math strong, but chemistry, no.
And math is a very logical subject.
It is.
As soon as A equals...
B.
No.
So then A equals 2.
Yeah.
B equals 3.
Yep.
And then what is C?
No idea.
So then you'd have to figure that out.
Well, you'd have to... Are you doing A plus B or A times B?
Right.
I'm already gone. Forget it.
Aw.
The answer is XYZ, okay?
The answer is always cat.
The answer is cat and XYZ. And LMNOP. And with that, I have to go pee.
Okay. Well, actually, it's probably a good time to probably call it quits. So anyway, this has been another episode of Zooming Hoosk Podcast. Hoping we can be a bit more proactive with the show, just because the last month I've just been figuring out my schedule.
Oh, yeah. Adapting,
but also just trying to work around it, but trying to be a bit more proactive with things when we're able to. So this whole week is going to be a whole bunch of podcast uploads. So this one might even be uploaded on Saturday or Sunday. But everything's going to be in chronological order, so at least that way you'll get them chronological order. So, I am your host, Dustin DaHusky.
I am a very tipsy Kurdan Sourpuss.
And we'll catch you next time.